And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. Also, because it's Prime Day, we're calling this Prime Conversations. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Also, want to welcome those tuning in on Facebook, on YouTube, and Twitter as well. We're simulcasting today because we not only been having some great interviews, but also some great deals. If you guys have missed any of the deals we've been talking about, make sure you guys do go back and watch some of our other live streams here at Amazon Live. If you guys are new to us on the Amazon Live side, we do welcome you guys. You will see there's a follow button either here in this corner or down below. Make sure you guys click on that so you can stay connected with all of our broadcasts. We have more deals coming up tomorrow, believe it or not. So we have some companies that are keeping over their deals another day. I'm going to be giving you guys some first dibs on those tomorrow. Also, you will notice the books for our next two guests in this next hour. We're excited to welcome back Dr. Velma Bagby to our broadcast. She's kicking off this hour with us here on Cyrus Webb Presents. You guys know her as the author of the Catch series. I'm going to talk to her about how the series became that, because it wasn't supposed to be. It all began with this book that you guys see highlighted in the carousel, The Catch No One Wants. And the newest book is right here. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it for you guys here, and that is called The Wrong Catch. So if you guys are new to the series, welcome. If you have any questions for Dr. Velma, make sure you guys put them in the comment section. The comment section is open on all the platforms. Dr. Velma, welcome back to the broadcast.
Thank you, Cyrus. It's a pleasure to be here with you again.
Look, it is always fun. I learn things about this series. I think our audience learns things about this series. So let's talk about how it became a series, because that was not this. Let's just start there, because this, when you wrote this book, hello, Miss Queenie. She's joining us on the Amazon Live side. She says, hey. How did it get from The Catch No One Wants, Dr. Velma, to now you having 3 books with more on the way?
Well, it started with the readers. The readers fell in love with the stories. So many people have talked about the fact that the characters, the fish characters, were men they have met before. They recognized them right away. They were just excited about it. And even with this third book that was recently released, they were excited about the fish that they learned about in The Wrong Catch as well. And so really all of this has been driven by the readers. I thought I was writing one novel and I was done and I was going to move on to something else. But that didn't happen because readers wanted to know more. And so that's how the series was created.
Ro on Amazon Live says, hello, Dr. Velma, to you as well. And I think, too, the interesting thing about this, Dr. Velma, because we should let our audience know, again, because we've been having a lot of new folks who've been joining us. We welcome you guys here on the Amazon Live side because of everything going on with Prime Day. They may not realize you had other books before this, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about what you had written prior to The Catch so they can kind of see the difference, because your work previously was mostly nonfiction, right?
Yeah, it was. My very first book was a nonfiction book about dating and relationships, when my daughters and I had conversations about men, some of the challenges they were facing in their dating lives. They were both adults, and we just had conversations about it. And they started telling their friends about what we talked about. The friends wanted to know more. And so then encouraged me to write a book. So having retired after doing what I was doing as a deputy administrator in the state of California, I was doing a lot of writing. I was developing training. I did training development, management development, all of that stuff. So it was not my goal to get busy writing again until this conversation with my daughters, and they inspired me to write. Not knowing the field that I was entering, I decided to trust a company to published my book because I didn't know anything about the publishing business or anything. And so that's why it was published as a nonfiction, because at the time it was just us telling our story, our conversations, our questions, and the answers I provided them. Once I got to know more about the writing field, I knew that at some point I needed to write again. But instead, I paused in 2019 when I was dealing with health issues pretty much all of that year. And the thought came to mind, why not write about that experience that you had? Because people think that Christians' lives are always perfect and we're on the cloud riding and it's smooth sailing just because God is backing us up. And that's not true. We have difficulties too. So my next book after that was A Place Called Down, Why Christians Suffer. And I talk about how sometimes before God moves us into where he really wants us to go, he has to refine us and get rid of the things he doesn't want to take us to take with us to the place he's taken us in our successes. And so that was my experience. And right after that is when my writing took off, and I understood that I needed to get comfortable with fiction, because of the fact that I wanted to make sure that what I was writing would resonate to a person who was familiar with scripture as well as those who were not.
Right. And that's a really good point there. Jacqueline says hello as well, and that she's here on the Amazon Live side as well. Jacqueline, welcome to you. For all of you who are coming in on the Amazon Live side, see you guys also over there on YouTube as well. Welcome. We're welcoming back Dr. Velma Bagby to our broadcast here as we're enjoying Prime Conversations here during Prime Day here on Amazon Live. We're currently talking about the beginning of this series, The Catch No One Wants. We have it highlighted there in the carousel. You guys can get the Kindle edition for only $2.99. You also will see the paperback there as well. So make sure you guys do pick that up too. So the thing that was really interesting for me, there's a question I was trying to think about if people are just new to you, Dr. Velma, and they're watching us for the very first time, some questions that they may wonder about this series. And so I want to ask you this question. I don't think I've asked you this, and that is, how did you decide on Veronica getting this from Grayson rather than from her mother, having the mother as the character?
It's interesting. I was asked almost a similar question to what you just asked. Somebody asked about the relationship of Veronica and her mother. But the relationship was very clear in the stories about Veronica and her father, because they were very close. I thought it was important to present the father in the way the father was when I was growing up, and the way fathers used to be when they were involved, when they were in the home. They were very much involved with who their daughter dated, who came to the house to visit her. They were very much involved in all of that process, even vetting him and confirming that, or affirming that he agrees this is the right person for her. So the father was involved, and I wanted to bring that back. And I used my husband as the model and the example, because he was very involved in his own daughter's lives. And we got one, we're still waiting, but he's very much involved in having conversations around, where they are, where she is at this point in her dating life. And so I thought it was important to show, because it's absent right now. And I think it's important.
It's interesting here you talk about the dating life. You and I, when we first started having these conversations, Dr. Velma, one of the things I made, and I make things more as an observation, just because of my own experiences, but also things I've seen. And that is, so many people today see dating as recreation.
Yes, they do.
Right. They don't see, and let's be honest, our entertainment pushes it that way. A lot of the people we look up to as celebrities and high profile individuals, they are with one person for 3 days, and next thing you know, they're with someone else, and we think that's funny. We think, so the whole it's all gotten really mixed up about the way that people look at dating. And I bring that up for an important reason, because of a conversation that you and I have not discussed in the book, chapter 4, The Catch No One Wants. I want to read something that you talk about with Carson and Valerie, as Grayson is talking to Veronica about the two of them. This is what you actually wrote on page 53 of the book, talking about the dynamics between what was wrong with what Valerie wanted versus where Carson was. This is what you wrote. Grayson explained she did not want to be paraded around for 3 to 5 years on a man's arm. She wanted a commitment that was stronger than that. Valerie wanted marriage. Veronica responded, "No, that was mouthful. I hadn't heard that term, but I took notes. So that's why you stress in our date with intent classes the 40-day rule, where the guy should express a level of commitment within the first 40 days. Grayson responded, yes, a guy, if honest, will admit that he knew the moment he met the woman he would marry her. He won't express it right away. He should spend the time examining her as the right fit, as you should do with a guy. That, to me, there's so much in there, but I want to talk about this because I think this is an important thing, because there's so much put on one or the other, right? There are some who think, the guy should be the one to make sure that everything is right. Some think that, that the woman should make sure this is right. This really shows it's both of their responsibility.
That's right.
So talk to us about that and what that was like for you to examine as you were explaining this to Valerie I'm
Hmm.
sorry, to Veronica through Grayson.
Yeah. I try to incorporate some of the conversations I've had with singles in the past. So over
Hmm.
30 years of doing that, just working with singles in ministries, talking to women, talking to men, even talking with my own husband when he's working with men that he knows and some of the challenges that they're facing with this whole process. So
Hmm.
all of that came to the forefront when I had to write this book. I wanted to integrate some of those conversations so that people were very clear on the way it should be, the
Hmm.
way that the practice we should have, because we've fallen away from that. And just like you said earlier, it's not any one person's responsibility, it's both
Hmm.
people's job to make sure they're vetting the person properly. We don't have the father in the home anymore to help do that for the daughter. But in this story, the
Hmm.
father had to, she's grown now, so he had to go back and invite her out to this on this fishing trip just so that he have that moment to really have these conversations with her. So I think it's very important for us to put the responsibility on each person. I hear a lot about the blame game. If I'm
Yeah.
like this because of what he did. I'm like, no, it's not. You like that because of what you're doing, because it's your
Yeah.
own heart, your own self you should be examining, not what he did. And so it was
Yeah.
important for me to integrate all of these things that I picked up during these conversations to make sure it was clear about some of those questions.
Dr. Bama, that is a perfect segue to the wrong catch. And I'm so
Mhm.
glad you said that. And I want to say I'm sorry. I'm seeing some more people coming on the Amazon Live side. So I want to say welcome to you guys on the Amazon Live side. If you guys are new to us here, I'm Cyrus Webb. You guys are watching Cyrus Webb Presents, or Prime Conversations as we're calling it
Mhm.
because of Prime Day. I'm here with Dr. Velma Bagby. We're discussing her series, the Catch series, that wasn't supposed to be a series, but now is a series.
Yeah.
And so if you want to catch up on that conversation, you can watch the replay. But now we're getting ready to talk about her brand new book that's out called The Wrong Catch. And she just made a great statement that to me ties in perfectly, Dr. Bum. And that is, and this frustrates me, I have to be honest with you, and people aren't going to like, some people aren't going to like me to say this, but it's the truth. There is this thing, and I don't know where it came from, where it's always the guy's fault. It's always the guy's fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
That it's the guy's fault that I'm not married yet. It's the
Hmm.
guy's fault that this is taking so long. It's the guy's
Hmm.
fault that I'm having to wonder. And I thought it was so interesting with Grayson and Veronica to have that conversation in the Catch No One Wants to see, as we see in The Wrong Catch, that the women in that conference in The Wrong Catch, they don't want to take responsibility either. Is that something that you're seeing a lot of, Dr. Velma, that there are, even though they're well intentioned, there's a lot of women who do not see the role they play in why things are not going the way they want them to go in relationships?
It's for the same reasons when I asked my two daughters, if he walked into your life now, are you ready? And both said no. So what are we talking about? And
Yeah.
that really is the bottom line for most women. If you ask them, some women will create this long list of things they want to find in the person. And
Hmm.
and sometimes I'll turn it around on them and say, well, how many of those things do you meet?
Yeah.
And most times they don't. They just have this idea of a man and yet don't realize that if that's your list, then you've got work to do, because you're going to have to measure up to what you say he is on that list. And women forget to do that. They forget to put in the work in themselves. And so even the men, in conversations I've had with some of the men who have read that black book, and on a panel I was on with all men, pastors, by the way, and they were asking me some similar questions because they're trying to work with the brothers to get them to that place of learning how to identify the right woman. And I had to share with them. They wanted a woman's perspective, and I had to share with them that there's work to be done on both sides if we want to get this thing right.
Yeah. And to that point, I want to read something from The Wrong Catch, and that is when Veronica and Grayson are working together. And
Uh-huh.
um, let's see what chapter this is. Some pages 58 and 59. But here, it's interesting because here, not only has Veronica done the work, and that's one of the things I want to talk to you about, is that
Yeah.
she is passing on what she's learned.
Yeah.
And she's talking to her dad about 80 women being registered for the event. And this is what Grayson says about why this topic is so popular. And I'm going to tie this into you, Dr. Bama. On page
Okay.
59, Grayson spoke calmly. Yes, God knew it would be an important topic. Women want to know a better path to discovering their husbands. The word has gotten out. You better have my grandson soon because it seems you and I will be busy for a while. I want to talk about that because that you're experiencing that. So my question is, could you have imagined you'd be experiencing the word getting out and you having these conversations the way you're having them, not only around a book, but around real life situations?
Maybe I was declaring it and didn't realize I was declaring it. I was speaking it into
Mm,
the atmosphere and didn't know I was speaking it into the
mm,
atmosphere. I just felt like I needed to make sure that what I was saying, I felt comfortable with what I was saying. And
yeah.
so maybe this is the manifestation of it all. But it was important for me to express it in the way that I did.
Mm,
You said something too that reminded me of something, and
yeah.
that was the conversation I had recently with a reader who told me what she thought about the book. And she said the problem with the many of the women, she said they're all looking for the Bennett that Veronica met some years
Mm,
later, because the Bennett
mm,
in the beginning, she did not feel like he was the
right.
right one. He was
Right.
working in constructions. And why is hard work and dedication a problem? It doesn't matter what he's doing. And yet so many women are after the Bennett after he becomes successful and he's a
Yes.
multimillionaire. Of course, Bennett's not interested in you, but the problem is you want that level of a man, and yet you can't keep your money together, yet
Yeah.
you can't stay in a place because you're being evicted. So how are you with your money? And so that's
Yeah.
important for people to see, that we aspire to a level that really you're not ready for.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that, and I want to thank you guys on the Amazon side for the hearts. Dr. Velma and I can't see them on the screen, but I can see them over here on the
Thank
side. So thank
you.
you so much for that. Really appreciate that, and that it is such a Hopefully they'll make that interactive in the future so we could actually see it on the screen. I can see it over here on the Amazon side. I can't see it on where we are, but I do want to thank you guys for that. But this is true. These are not easy conversations, Dr. Bam, because no one wants to say I was at fault too. It's a lot easier to say that person was at fault. Just like the women in this
Wow.
conference,
Yeah.
they did not want to hear
No.
about their role in this. They
No.
only wanted to hear, and I might add, did not want to forgive, but they want to be forgiven.
Yeah.
That part kind of got me. I didn't
Yeah.
like that part.
Where
But it's real. It's real. Talk to us about that.
where is the grace in that? That's what I want to
Yeah.
say. Where is the grace?
Yeah.
It takes grace even in your marriage. You have to show some grace sometimes. And
Hmm.
and that's the reason I approached it the way I did, because I've met those women. I've heard
Yeah.
what they had to say. And it just surprised me because it's the wrong thinking. And just like the woman who wants the grace and after he earns millions. When my husband and I
Hmm.
met, my husband had no money. He was just a hard worker. I had
Yeah.
already established my career with the state government, but why would I judge him for that? Matter of fact, 2 weeks before we were preparing to marry, he got laid off. And I remember my mother coming to me and saying, "Do you want to call the wedding off?" I said, "Why?" His
Mm.
being laid off wasn't his fault. So we
Right.
started out very humble, but what we built together was more satisfying and more rewarding. And we appreciated it more because I didn't wait for a man to walk into my life after he had millions of dollars, or my husband after he got into the seven-figure salaries. I didn't wait for that. And
Hmm.
so I trusted our life. I trusted our progress. I trusted where we were going at the time. And I think that's important for many women to see. They set their sights on the wrong thing, and men can see that.
Right. Such a great point. Hello to you, Ellen Sutter. It's good to be to see
Hi,
you over on the
Ellen.
Facebook side as well. Ellen, try to behave. We have company. Dr. Bama's here, so I want you to act right. Okay, we have company.
She
That,
got me yesterday already, Cyrus.
yeah, Miss Queenie says amen. And Wendy, hello, Wendy. Wendy's joining us on the Amazon Live side. Wendy says hey as well. Dr. Bama. So, Dr. Bama, the time always gets away from us, but I want to talk about what's coming up next because the way the book is set up, there's no, I mean, I'm not spoiling anything. We know
It's
there
no
will be
reason to,
more.
yeah,
I'll say that.
yeah,
Are you as excited about the more as your readers seem to be?
yes, yes. I am very excited because I'm
Mhm.
excited about um, being able to respond to the men and their requests to demonstrate what does the wrong woman look like. And that's what I plan to do. But on top of that, the readers have asked for more fictionality. So that means another book has to come out even after the one I'm working on. So those are the things that I'm going to be doing based on what the readers have asked. But in response to the men, I am working on a book that shows the wrong women.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I will be reading that one too. Uh, uh, Ellen on Facebook, Rose says on Amazon Live, boy Cyrus, you really know Ellen. Yes, I've gotten to know Ellen, and and Wendy says, "Bring it, Dr. Bama." And we're so excited about this, Dr. Bama, because these characters are so real, they're so relatable, and again, the way we didn't talk about it here, but one of the things Dr. Bama's talked about is looking at the way that Jesus told illustrations, used illustrations, is one of the things that kind of inspired her in this as well. And it has definitely worked for you, Dr. Bama. And I'm so excited we could talk about it. Again, everyone, Dr. Velma Bagby has been our guest. Make sure you guys get for yourself her book, The Catch No One Wants. There it is there. You can see there. And then, of course, there is The Wrong Catch. Go ahead and highlight for you guys on the Amazon Live side there. You can see it there. Both of those are available in paperback as well as a Kindle edition here on Amazon. I didn't hold it up, but you could also get the Homework Basket, which is the nonfiction book in the series. It is in the carousel as well, so you guys can be able to get that one as well. Dr. Velma, how can our audience stay connected with you?
I'm on all social media platforms. Just look for me, Dr. Velma Bagby, author. Some cases like Instagram, it'll say author Dr. Velma Bagby on LinkedIn as well as Twitter. Soon to be Threads once I learn more about it, and Facebook. So feel free to connect with me. Our info.drvelma.com. That's my email address if you want to reach out to me, as well as drvelma.com, my website.
All right. So make sure you guys are staying connected. Last thing I want to ask you about, Dr. Velma, and this is for anyone else out there, because I'm so glad you shared the story in the beginning of how you started. And that is, of course, writing nonfiction. You have been able to also share your writing journey and how you kind of found your own voice and embraced your own voice. What would you say to other people out there who may be thinking about writing and giving them some encouragement for finding their own voice too?
I met a couple of people in my age bracket and somebody that had been working on a book for some time. And I said, look, it's never too late. If I can start my writing career at the age I did, 64, I'm 68 now, then you certainly have time to discover what it is you have to write. And the one thing that challenged me was I was stepping into a genre that was already crowded, and I hesitated for that reason. But the one thing that I heard my marketing teacher say to the group, and that is, no one can say it like you. No one can write it like you. So just remember that whatever it is you have to say or have to write about is your voice. It's what you're supposed to say. No one else has said it like you before. So that's important.
Love that. Such a great message. Ellen says, "Can't wait to the book 4. She is awesome and serious about intentionally dating." Yeah, there's so many great things. Again, real world lessons that we can get out of these books, Dr. Velma. So glad that you can be able to be with us to talk about it. Thank you again for a great conversation. Looking forward to having you back again.
Thanks, Cyrus. Appreciate it.
And more than welcome. And we thank you all for watching Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live, as well as streaming on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. Now, keep in mind, we have more conversations to come. Tanya White is going to be making her first appearance on our broadcast here. She's written a powerful book that's out now. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it for you guys in the carousel here on Amazon. It's called Professionally Lynched: Revealing System-Wide Workplace Injustices and Healing from the Lifelong Trauma It Causes Everyone. She doesn't know it, but I've already read her book. I have my copy right here. We're going to be talking to Tanya not only about the writing of the book, but also what that term means. They're going to actually read what she wrote in the book about what that means when she's talking about being professionally lynched, and the work that she's been able to devote herself to. I want to also remind you guys, if you guys have been on Amazon today shopping, we had a great project show a little bit earlier today with some great products there. And we're having another broadcast after I wrap up this hour, of course, with our interviews. So make sure you guys do stay tuned. If there's something in particular you're looking for here on Amazon and I can help you with it, make sure you guys do put it in the chat. I'll be glad to be able to help you with that. As I mentioned, though, Tanya White is joining us today. This is her first time joining us on Amazon Live to talk to us not only about her new book, but also, of course, what it's been like for her to address this topic and to see the way that people responded to it. Tanya, hello to you. How you doing?
Hello, hello.
Good to be able to see you.
Yes. Can you
And
hear
it is,
me?
yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah, it is pronounced Tanya, right? I wanted to make sure.
Thank you. It's Tanya, but it's spelled Tanya. My daddy
Okay,
loved Tanya Tucker.
there you go. Look, I wanted to make sure. Well, look, we have it highlighted for you on the Amazon Live side. Congratulations on Professional Lynch. We're going to get more into the book, but I want to talk about this experience, Tanya. What has it been like for you to see the way that people are responding to the book already?
Well, shock is the first response from the
Mm,
title. And
yeah.
that's okay. I like a shocking response because
Mhm.
it settles you. It focuses you on what is about to be said.
Yeah.
And as a professional Black woman, you know the statistics. The Black woman is the most disrespected, disregarded, um, professional in
Mm,
corporate America. One of my friends gave me this term said that the corporate ladder is so cracked for us that we are falling through and nobody
mm,
cares. They say that they want minorities, particularly Black women, at the table in upper management. But what I experienced when I became a school administrator, yes, they want you at the table. I was given minority scholarships in education, in administration. But when you get that position, you are disregarded, ignored, devalued, and dismissed at that decision making table. And you pretty much they try to articulate to society that you are the angry Black woman or the aggressive Black woman for voicing your concerns about injustice, and that is far from true.
yeah. You actually said this, and I made a note of it when I was reading the book, Tanya. So I'm going to actually read this directly from the book. And for those who have the print edition, like I do, it's found on page 152. And again, we have it highlighted for you guys on the Amazon Live side. You guys can be able to see it there. But Tanya writes this: yes, the term professionally lynched shocks people. Whether you are the person being lynched or doing the lynching, the phrase sparks a stress level identical to D'Angelo's concept of white fragility. Denial, fear, anger, guilt, disgust, and anxiousness are only a few of the reactions exhibited from addressing the topic. The phrase professionally lynched will possibly give rise to another concept. I refer to it as professional fragility. I want to talk about the courage to have this conversation, though, Tanya, because it is a necessary one, as you said. But what helped you to have the courage to be the one to say, I'm going to address this come what may?
Well, it was a part of my healing. Last year, this exact time, I was at the Indianapolis Black Expo, getting prepared to do a book talk, and I
Mm,
visit another author's book talk, Angela G. Henry. She wrote "Dents in the Ceiling," dealing
mm,
with barriers women face in her industry, which is informational text industry. And
okay.
she was reading her book, and I'm looking in a gasp and saying, "Oh my goodness, has she been reading my journal of some of the workplace bullying that she, as a Black woman, experienced
Yeah.
and other women that she interviewed experience?"
Mm,
And so I dealt with this type of treatment for 7 years. I was in public school education for 20. I did
mm,
not. I'm sorry. I did
okay.
not um, experience any injustice when I was in the classroom and not at the decision making table. All
Mm,
of the blatant and unjust actions began when I became a school administrator and was making results and influence in my school.
mm,
And so what gave me the courage is what I finally had the language of what I was dealing with
mm,
um, and going through. I had already left that organization, but I was still dealing with the trauma because it is
yeah.
lifelong trauma. Even
Right.
today, when I see certain colleagues ascending and everybody's clapping, I'm like, you don't even know what she went through to
Yeah.
finally get that position. So yes, the claps, but let's go to the chaos and the unjust injustices that she had to go through. And so, and plus, I'm in the city of Breonna Taylor. And so at the
Mm,
time, that's when I really start getting fed up, especially when my organization and other community organizational leaders were on this social justice bandwagon and Black Lives Matter. And I'm sitting here thinking, I was like, the only reason why you're saying it is because it's politically correct to say it. I'm sorry, I keep going in and out.
No,
I'm new.
no, it's okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, I think what it is, I think it's a virtual background, Tanya. I think that's
Okay.
what's doing it. If I don't know if you feel comfortable turning it off, but
Yeah,
if
where I go to settings.
right,
I'm
right, and
sorry.
you know, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, yeah. If you go to settings there,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
there you go. Okay, okay.
I was trying to be cool. Have me a virtual background, and it's still kind of dark, but okay, there we go.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. There you go. Yeah. But no, yeah, you were talking about what was happening there around the time of Breonna Taylor.
Yes. And
Hmm.
so a lot of organizational leaders, especially at the organization I was in, was getting on the social bandwagon saying, you
Hmm.
know, what happened to Breonna is a travesty. And I'm sitting here thinking, along with some of my colleagues who are experiencing professional lynching every day. I didn't have that language, that term, but we were
Right.
going through professional trauma, not getting promoted justly, being disciplined unjustly. And it was all barriers to keep us from ascending higher, because once you ascend higher, especially as a Black woman, you can make incredible change, not only in the school, but in the district, in the community, in the state.
Right.
And that's what many, not only myself, but many, I interview other ladies in here, and that's what we were doing in terms of empowering students, student voice, getting parents involved, having, you know, more parents being engaged, not just showing up at events, but volunteering, wanting to be on decision making, the parent decision making committee. So that's what was happening to me. And as it was happening, I didn't know that was the ultimate goal. I thought that I was doing something wrong. And in the book, I explained it's like any other abusive, traumatic relationship that you go through.
Yes.
When a boss has a target and they are insecure and they want you to fail and they have the power, they will do anything. And then they will make the entire organization, because they find a fine line in the processes and procedures. And of course, when you're a higher level in the organization, of course, human resources is going to be on your side, because they don't want to pay out that money. And so, and they don't want to, you know, have to look stupid as to having somebody incompetent. And so that's what was happening to me. At the time, I did not know it. I just knew I was going through a traumatic experience. I thought I was crazy. In the book, I discussed I had to take 2 medical leaves from my job. And then I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety at the time, and didn't know it, because, you know, I'm a professional Black woman. I grew up, you know, with the terminology you got to go through to get through, you know, press through the strong Black woman syndrome. But what I was doing was really killing myself, because I wasn't speaking up. And then when I did speak up to the powers that be, I was looked as the villain. And so I had to do rebuttals. I had to write. I had to defend myself to even the Professional Standards Board.
Yeah. And Tony, I'm so glad. I want to bring up what Ellen says. Ellen says, I saw her book and it was such a bold title. So happy to meet her here. You know, here's the thing, Tanya. And again, when you connected with me and we set up this interview, I had not read the book at the time initially. So of course I went to Amazon because I wanted to be ready for this conversation with you. And what I thought was so interesting, and you really hit the nail on the head, what I picked up on, that it's for being professionally lynched is just like any other abusive relationship. Because you talk about there's different ways that it can happen. And so I want to talk about that for a second, because I think a lot of people think, well, as long as, you know, I'm not being called outside my name, as long as I'm not dealing with this, it's okay. But you really lay out that it begins a lot more subtle.
It's
But if
very
they,
subtle.
you know, if you see, they see they can take an inch, they'll keep on till they can get a mile. What was it like for you to see the progression of it throughout your own journey? What other people have talked to you about?
Well, as I was going through it, I was very hurt. It was like walking on eggshells. Like I said, it's very much, I've been in an emotionally abusive relationship. So it was very much like that. So you think everything, because you don't think that your boss has a target on you. You're thinking that this boss, this person in a higher, who is your evaluator, and they have concerns, those concerns are valid. But when the concerns keep coming, like mine were every day, then they turn into multiple times a day, then it turned into almost every hour when I was at work. I couldn't like sit down and do my work for not being called at the office. One time I just said, you know what, can you give me a break from calling me from your office for 2 weeks? Because I was like, oh my God. And I've always been the person to do what I'm told to do. And I don't mind, correct constructive criticism, but you have to constructively criticize me and give me what the next step is. And that was the missing piece. No next step, no praise. After a while, there was no praise at all. The first 6 months I write him out there, Miss White could do no wrong, but after that, it was like the least little thing. And it was always, they said, I got this from them. No, he could never tell me who were the they, but they always had a complaint about me. But I'm getting emails from parents, from district leaders who's seeing my work, or I've collaborated with compliments, and they CC my boss. Never praise for that. It was always the criticism. And then I finally figured out, it was like, oh, they just come in from his little circle or her little circle, because I had two bosses. And when I finally had the aha, yes, I'm going to continue to advocate for myself. But when I get to the district level and the state level and find out this is a whole systematic thing, it's not about a person, it's about a system, because nobody wants to admit they're wrong. Especially when it comes to racial discrimination and gender discrimination, because that can get you in a lot of legal trouble.
Right. I want to say, for those who are just tuning in, both on the Amazon Live side, and I appreciate you guys giving us the hearts over there on Amazon Live. Also, those tuning in on Facebook, like Ellen and others are, and YouTube and Twitter, you all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents. Tanya White is our guest. We're discussing her book. You guys can see it there. She has hers, Professionally Lynched. The subtitle of the book is Revealing System-Wide Workplace Injustices and Healing from the Lifelong Trauma It Causes Everyone. I want to read something else from the book that I thought was interesting, Tanya. For those who have the print edition, it's on page 69 of the book. You say this in talking about the situations that you went through. You said, my professional journey in education has awakened me to many disheartening realizations. Yet, the biggest awareness I have come to terms with is that school districts across this nation have cleverly created savvy system-wide strategies to covertly dismiss both the 1954 landmark Supreme Court decision of Brown versus Board of Education and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Unfortunately, public school education is progressing at turtle-like speed while regressing rapidly to the horrendous time of segregation. And what I thought was so interesting, and I don't know the answer to this question, so I want to ask you, so I know and my audience knows, Tanya, when did you finish this book?
I finished this book, actually, the first draft in February of this year.
Okay.
Yes, right. I started writing last July 31st of 2022. But like I said, I have been enduring this since 2014. And I have that passage right there was many instances of being in the administrative team meetings and with scheduling. And I'm asking, why does this Black teacher have all the Black kids and half of the special education kids, while her white counterpart has 2? And the 2 Black kids that she have are above academic level and no behavior problems. They're on the same team. Why is that? And so when I start asking those why questions and getting a little, rolling of the eyes in their head, those are the type of things when parents come, and literally I've been in meetings with parent meetings where the head school administrators in there, and they blatantly told a lie to the parent. And I'm sitting in a quandary because, first of all, I know this parent from the community. I know this parent knows what their rights are. And it's like, what do I do? And so I always advise parents to get involved in the school, know those policies, attend these school board meetings, voice your opinions, because the more parents speak up, parents get the ball rolling. They get the ball rolling because the school board has no control over what they say. And so I encourage parents to be involved, be a vocal presence in your child's education, because there are some subtle, some savvy, some really sadistic things that are happening even now as people are planning for the upcoming year and everything's going to be different. It really isn't.
Yeah. I want to talk to you more about that. I want to read what Ellen says. Ellen says, in the workplace, Black and brown people are seen working, but their vocal ideas are to not be spoken from Black and brown people. The reason why I wanted to ask you about when you wrote this, because of what we see happening right now in the school system with
Yes.
removing classes, removing courses, removing books, removing history. And when I read that passage, and I thought to myself, when did she write this?
No,
book?
and what
So,
what
yeah,
most
yeah.
people don't realize is
Mhm.
what you're seeing now with the removal. Those have been decades of work in the making. With,
Mhm.
like you said, you give them an inch, they take a mile. You give
Mhm.
them a mile, they take even more. And
Yeah.
so what we're seeing now, it has been many years in the making.
Mhm.
I've been at, the table in the decision making within schools, not at the
Mhm.
district level, but in
Right.
schools where, I don't want this read. I don't want this event. I remember I was planning a Black History event.
Mm.
And I had done it many years as our school counselor. I had live Black History museums. And my principal told me that year, he didn't want that because it offends certain races. And we're going to have, I want you to plan an all-inclusive. Okay. I understand that, but Black History is a national holiday. Can we
Right.
have a Black History live museum and like a women's all history month? But we're
Mhm.
going to celebrate. I had to fight for that, and that was another target on my back because
Mhm.
we don't teach history in school.
Yeah.
This was the only way the students and the parents were going to learn history. The students had to portray characters, research the characters, embody the characters. So it was a project-based learning. But when he told me that, I was like, oh no, we're not. We're going to celebrate Black history.
Mhm.
We can celebrate all history, but those are the little subtle things. Trying to
Yeah.
get rid of certain things, certain books, certain program. If you go into your school that is predominantly brown and Black, and you only see a couple of brown and Black teachers, that is strategic. And that is don't let the district say, oh, it's not our decision. Yeah, you have decision because you get data from each school about what staff and the student population. So there's so many things that they can do, but what we're seeing is that you're choosing not to do it. And what did Trump say? Make America great again. He's talking about the segregation times, and we're slowly seeing that.
You mentioned just now about the live Black History Museum, and you referenced that in the book as well, Tanya. I want to stick with this for just a second though, because I think this is a good point for our audience, which is why I think this book may be even bigger than what people may initially thought. Yes, it's Tanya's story, but Tanya, it sounds like what you're saying, and what when people take the time to read it, like I read it, you really are talking about the history we're living in today, right? That
Mm.
all of us have a choice what side we're going to be on.
Yeah. And that's why the ED is in a row, because I couldn't blatantly say public school educators. I didn't want to just focus on that because it's happening everywhere. But in education, where we are preparing the students for the future, there are
Yeah.
certain things that are happening. And when I planned my first live Black History Museum, there were almost 100 students of all colors involved in that. From research to the dance part, I had more ESL and white people on the dance part than I had African American students in that part. So it wasn't the fact that I was excluding one part. I was celebrating and including a marginalized group and a history that we don't even teach our children. So it was very successful. And 100 kids, that means 100 parents came out to see it. And so, boom.
Yeah. There's a popular Whitney Houston song, Tanya, that I thought about when I was reading this, because a lot of it is, you can see almost a form of PTSD that could come from this, right?
Oh.
Whitney has that song, I Didn't Know My Own Strength. You talk about them moving past the trauma, finding healing. Has it surprised you that you've been able to heal the way you have?
It hasn't surprised me. It
Mhm.
has really encouraged me because, like
Okay.
I said, last year this time, before I even wrote one word, I've been doing this book thing for years. This is my 10th book, so I
Mhm.
always give a preview of what is to come. And so last year, when I had the concept for the book cover, I said, coming next year, July, whenever the date month was, 2023,
Uh-huh.
and so many people inbox me from various industries, Black men and women, who said, I've experienced what you've experienced, but we're so programmed. It's like the plantation mentality. When you see wrong, and when you're speaking up against an oppressive system, they'll whip you back into shape, whether it is isolation, moving to another department or another school. If you're in a school, demotion. I had colleagues who've been demoted. I've had colleagues who've been terminated, suspension. And so they do whatever they need to do to put you in your place. One of the aha moments I got, Cyrus, was when I watched the movie She Said, dealing with Harvey Weinstein, and that whole, how he was able to get away with so much abuse and sexual assault in his company, and people covered up for him. But so many women were hurt, not only women, but their families, because they had to leave a job, or they had to be muzzled, or some of them got sick, and emotionally or physically, because they dealt with that. And so when you are dealing with that trauma in the workplace, being in a workplace injustice, it's not really about you. It's about a system. And when you look at the systematic, that's why I put in the subtitle, systematic injustices. It's a whole scheme, because if we are, anxious and not who we are on our job, then we're going to bring that home, and we're going to, our family is going to miss a part of who we are. If our family misses a part of who we are because our job is, oppressing us, then our community is going to miss, because we don't have the strength, or we're so traumatized, we become a recluse, which I did for a few years.
Well, it's such an important conversation, Tanya, which is why I'm so glad we have you here for you to talk about it. Again, everyone, Tanya White has been our guest. Professionally Lynched is the book. You guys can see it there. The subtitle again is Revealing System-Wide Workplace Injustices and Healing from the Lifelong Trauma It Causes Everyone. The last thing I want to share from the book, Tanya, and have you talk about it is I think probably it can be one of the most difficult parts. And Ellen says, congratulations on your 10th book.
Thank
you. And this is found on page 136 and 137, but you said this about gaining the strength. And this is another reason why I brought up the Whitney Houston song, Tanya. You say, diminishing our pain has become a normalized dysfunction. We are programmed to ignore, deny, or shut our mouths about what harmed us. But God can't heal what you won't reveal, and God can't fix what you won't face. You're going to say this on page 137. As I gained the strength to speak freely, my family and friends and close friends received an in-depth account of my experience. Unfortunately, my professional trauma automatically made them indirect trauma victims. And it goes to the point you were just making. Hello, Dr. Clara. Good to be to see you over on the Amazon Live side as well. I'm sorry, on the Facebook side as well. Thank you for being with us. I want to talk about that, because I think this is why I brought up the PTSD earlier, Tanya, because I don't think we realize, and that's why I say this is so deep, because, people who are traumatized at work, kids who are traumatized at school, bullied at school, dealing with all of that, it has to impact other areas of their life and those in their lives. When did you realize that you were, by handling the trauma the way you had been, that you were creating trauma victims in the process?
I realized as I was going through therapy, healing, and researching this book. I did a lot of research on, because it's the lifelong trauma. Because just because I wrote a book and left the organization doesn't mean I don't suffer trauma. Like I said, when I see colleagues getting a promotion, I'm like, we went through the same administrative cohort. I should be there. But my siblings were traumatized because they know me. They know my work ethic. We come from the same background as family. They know the passion, the blood, sweat, and tears I gave the job. And so when I was first going through, they couldn't understand. But after I left and I, gave them more in depth, my brother, because both of my parents are deceased, so he is the male figure. So you know how men are when they are protective of their family. So he was very upset with the entire, not just the principal, but with the entire school system, because he's like, how can he get away with that? You got this. I mean, when I say I had evidence and documentation, rebuttals and stuff, and I had to go through years of defending myself, you know, my siblings witnessed that. My niece, who I is my niece's daughter, I raised, she went to the same school, so she indirectly had some traumatic experiences. They're not gonna come directly for your child. They're gonna indirectly. I remember my principal telling me on one of the school days where the staff had to work and the students wasn't there. I had every staff had always brought, who had kids, brought their children there. He pulled me in and said he didn't want my niece there anymore if the students wasn't there. No explanation given. I had to find, and she was in 3rd grade. I had to find baby, you know, a sitter for something that was a school-wide thing. But I asked, I said, is this a policy? Because I didn't see it written anywhere. Of course, you give me the run around. Yes, you know, everybody knows, but it's written nowhere. But on the next days, of course, white counterparts, their children were there, but my niece who I raised couldn't come. So it's just subtle stuff like that.
Yeah. What is your hope then, Tanya? Now that the book is officially out this year, people are able to read it. I notice, of course, people on the Amazon Live site clicking on it. What do you hope when people read Professionally Lynched? What do you hope it does for them?
We always need that predecessor to speak something shocking to get us to think. I always compare, I am like Vernon Johns. People who don't know, Vernon Johns was the pastor of Ebenezer right before Martin Luther King. They kicked him out because they said he was too radical, too much in the community, too much with social justice. They were going to hire this young, fresh pastor, Martin Luther King, because then they could shape him and do what he'll do what they wanted. Little did they know God had a bigger plan for Martin Luther King. And so when Martin Luther King came in, it was shortly after that he was called out to do the same thing Vernon Johns did, but they could not accept it because he was the first to have those ideas in that church. So sometimes it takes the person to go ahead to blaze the trail, to speak of injustices, endure the brunt work. And that's what I'm called to do. Professionally Lynched, yes, it's shocking, but I guarantee you in about 2 years, as we see this, the dismantling of DEI and all the other things, and we're going to slowly see more people speaking out about their injustice, because your hurt is your hurt, your trauma is your trauma, and nobody can tell you that it didn't happen. The more you speak up, the more other people can speak up, and this stuff will eventually decrease. It may not cease in your lifetime, but we will see a decrease.
All right. Again, the book's available here on Amazon. Make sure you guys get your copy. Tanya, congratulations to you. Glad to be able to have this time to be able to chat with you. How can our audience stay connected with you?
They can stay connected with me at Tanya White. Tanya, again, is Tanya. White is in the color.com. I'm on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Real Talk with Tanya White, or Tanya White, Kentucky, or Tanya White 1913, because I am a Delta. So I just wanted to, all my Soros, hope to see you next week at National Convention. But yes, you can, or you can go down Cyrus's list on Facebook and click me. But thank you so much, Cyrus, for having me on, and thank you for reading the book. I will look forward to more conversations like this.
Definitely. Congratulations. Really appreciate this. I'll be writing my review here on Amazon as well. Definitely encourage anyone else who's already read the book. Make sure you guys do that. Read the book first.
Read it.
Read the book first, so you can then be able to get a better understanding of not only what is Tanya's experience, but also the experience of so many others. And we definitely thank you all for watching this episode of Cyrus Webb Presents. We thank you all for being with us for this hour. Hello to you, Pele, joining us on the Amazon Live side. I appreciate you being with us. Much love to you as well. It's been another great hour for you guys. As you guys know, it is Prime Day, day 2 of Prime Day. Dr. Velma, thank you as well. If you guys have not done so already, if you've missed out on any of the deals we've been broadcasting, if there's something in particular you guys are looking for, have a post on my Facebook. Let me know what you're looking for. Be glad to be able to let you know the brands I'm working with that have some great deals on cordless vacuum cleaners, on things for the home, things for the office as well. You see my nice water fountain here. It is actually my waterfall. It's on sale right now for Prime Day as well. So a lot of great deals going on right now. If there's something you guys are looking for, let me know. I'll be glad to be able to help you guys with that. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb saying thank you so much for being with us. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.